Good evening, and welcome to Hello, It's Us, Perspectives on Inclusion. This program is dedicated to educating the general public about issues important to people with disabilities. And we believe that as you watch it, you will recognize that the issues are important to everybody in our community because people with disabilities certainly are an integral part of it. Hello, It's Us, Perspectives on Inclusion is brought to you through a collaboration between the University of Iowa Center for Disabilities and Development, our friends at Uptown Bill's Coffee Shop, and the good people here at Public Access Television. My name is Mike Honig. I work at the University of Iowa Center for Disabilities and Development, and I serve as a co-host for Hello, It's Us. Keith.
I'm Keith Ruff, co-host to the show. I'm retired, but I'm still disability advocate for Eastern Iowa. Thank you for coming, Bob and Amy.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Yes, this is the second part of our two-part post-legislative session wrap-up for 2018. And we'll go ahead and have you, Senator Dvorsky, introduce yourself, and then Representative Nielsen, you can follow along, and then we'll dive into the session a little bit and see what we come up with.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. I'm State Senator Bob Dvorsky from Coralville, finishing up my 32nd year in the Iowa House and Iowa Senate, and I will be the State Senator till January 13th, and then on the 14th we'll be swearing in a new person for Senate District 37. Hopefully the Democratic nominee, Zach Walls. So.
Yes, that would be good. Representative Amy Nielsen from North Liberty. I represent the western, more rural part of Johnson County, which is Swisher, Tiffin, Oxford, Lone Tree. And I just finished my first term, so running for re-election for the first time.
Nice. Well, good luck.
Thanks.
Yeah,
I'm unopposed. I should be all right.
Well, it sounds like it's. I can't believe it's been one term already that you've had, because I remember when you first were I think we talked to you right before session was supposed to start, and here we are 2 years later almost. So
Time flies when you're having fun.
there you go. So.
Well, I would start by asking you both, without going across the line, how do you feel about the session that just ended?
If you need to go across the line, we've got our disclaimer, so.
How do I feel about this session that just
Yeah.
ended?
Just overall impressions.
Yeah.
What,
And the lack of cooperation.
Yeah, well, I mean, it sure wasn't any better than 2017. It might have been just a little bit worse because some of my Republican friends didn't even know what was going on. Some of the time, yeah, we just really need to get some new people in both the House and the Senate and the governor's office so that we can start working together again and doing things collaboratively. It would be nice. I was lucky that I was able to work on one bill this year with a Republican, and it actually passed the House. At least I got to experience that. But other than that small bill, the big ones that really mattered, there was no collaboration or exchanging of ideas.
that has to be frustrating.
What's interesting on Representative Nielsen's comments is that there's probably more collaboration in the House than in the Senate. There's even less. There's even less in the Senate, and the Senate Republicans had a rule that if there any amendment that had a Democratic sponsor wouldn't go anywhere, or any bill, obviously. Now I did get an amendment passed, but that was because I talked to the. Well, he ended up being the president of the Senate, Senator Schneider, and he agreed with the amendment, and we did it. And then I think Senator Taylor had one that they agreed with too. But that's through the whole session. That was probably it, because they really, you know, I think in 17 was the worst legislative session I'd ever been in, and 18 is probably 17 was all shock and awe because they really threw everything at us and it was real fast and everything and all that came at it. And then 18, they took their time more because there was a lot of incompetence in running things, especially in the Senate because, you know, we lost the majority leader because of his escapades. He resigned and then they had to restructure and get new people in leadership. And there was no leadership from the governor. She's way over her head here, and she runs an operation that not only is corrupt, but they're incompetent also. So it's a bad combination. And so everything this last year was just horrible situation and no cooperation with essentially anybody. And there are senators and House members who are Republicans who you probably could work with if they were left on their own, but you know, this has got to stop. And you know, it's getting really, unfortunately, similar to what's going on in D.C. And
Yeah.
we really can't have that.
No, we can't. We're not moving. I think, you know, I would like to say we have universal agreement on that, but I think we do in this room, but unfortunately,
But unfortunately, so that was the tenure of the whole situation. So.
Well, that makes it difficult to work. I know that we want to hit some of the highlights in terms of just some of the things that may or may not have gotten done related to some of the topics on disability. And I know that a lot of our people that tune in either on public access TV or on the web, that the Health and Human Services budget continues to be a big area of concern. And obviously, I believe since we talked last time, I believe one of the MCOs had just left the state or was in the process of leaving when we visited last time, but obviously we're down to 2, and we are interested in just kind of any thoughts you have on oversight. I mean, it looks like there was a bill passed, but I guess I would be interested in your perspectives on whether anything, how it might be, or if it's impacting people that are Medicaid recipients in any way. Do you think the changes in terms of oversight will really make things any better for people with disabilities or other recipients, as well as providers, in terms of getting paid in a timely manner? Anybody want to take that one?
Well, I think there was some language, I guess, that ended up in the Health and Human Services Appropriations Bill that was passed. I don't think, and hopefully I'm wrong, but I don't think there's a lot of teeth in any of it to actually control MCOs or anything. Now, the one avenue we do have supposedly to deal with that is the new director of DHS, Mr. Foxhoven, and he was subject to Senate confirmation, and it was kind of a real hassle whether or not he was going to be confirmed or not. And the Democrat caucus, we did not confirm one other person, the person who was head of the PERB board, the Public Employees Relations Board. We did not confirm him because of the way they handled this whole bashing of collective bargaining, bashing of public sector unions. The way they handled the whole situation, and actually in caucus we did play a tape of if you wanted to vote, how you would go on the phone and how you try and vote. It was ridiculous the way they had set up. So we actually did essentially take him down, not confirm him. So
really?
we could have done that with Mr. Foxhoven. But we had lots of discussion and trying to see if, Mr. Foxhoven is a registered Democrat and has worked a lot of Democratic causes over the years, and he was a Drake Law professor and all that. And I guess the consensus was sort of, if we don't confirm him, Governor Reynolds will find an even worse person to run DHS. So unfortunately, we're at that level. And so we ended up confirming him, and he keeps talking about having more oversight on MCOs and that sort of thing. So I don't know if that's going to happen or not. They also hired a new gentleman named Mr. Randall, who's the head of Medicaid for the state.
Okay.
And he had been in Kansas, and you know what a model Kansas is. Horrible place, situation, and how they handle that. And he's one arrogant bureaucrat. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he's bad, you know, but we had a couple meetings with him, and at one point I said it would be nice if the MCOs didn't run the state, if the state ran the MCOs. And that got his attention.
That's good.
Yeah, that's good. So I want to make my position clear with him that he understood where we're at on that kind of thing. And he's so far has sort of raised a lot of dust and thrown out a lot of phony numbers. If you followed in the press, there's all these different numbers and how much MCOs are going to save us. At one point, they said 47 million, the next one was 141 million, and they keep moving it up and down and everything. And so it's really good they brought him in so you had accurate numbers. So there isn't really any accurate numbers now. And to that point, though, I hope people listen here because this is going to be partisan, but it should be. There's a young man named Rob Sand, and he is running for state auditor. And one of the things he has said, he had worked for I think 12 years as an assistant attorney general, and he prosecuted fraud and that kind of thing, and sent people to jail for the way they did things, that sort of thing. And what he says is the auditor should be doing real audits, performance audits, that actually show agencies what they need to do and how they need to change their practices, and not sort of the audits they do now. And I've seen the audits they do now, and they really just are, debit and credit audits. They don't really tell you anything.
Yeah,
You know?
well, I think between that and also the ICN
Right.
scandal, we've kind of been shown that our current auditor is not doing as thorough a job as maybe she should be.
She was on the ICN board and all that scandal broke, and she wasn't at the meetings.
Yeah.
So, because of Mr. Rob Sand, and also a letter from Senator Pam Yocum requesting that there be an audit done of the MCOs, and I think in Rob Sand out there running, the auditor, Mary Mosselman, is going to actually do an audit of the MCOs. Now, if she wanted to do an audit that people would believe in, they should hire a third-party person and not her, who's running for re-election, right? I mean, that would be actually the way you should do it if you actually want people to believe your audit and not just show some sort of phony election day one. And I would predict that, remember the old Carson Karnak thing? I would predict they don't find any problems with their audit. Because the auditor's doing it and it's not an independent audit.
Are you still hearing lots of, are you still getting lots of concerned calls and contacts from people that aren't getting served through getting human services because of the changes that have been brought about by the MCOs? Are people still, reaching out and saying this is not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still get some too. And one of the problems also is usually we would get a constituent situation, we would call one of our staff people, and one of our caucus staff people. Then they would work with the lobbyists for the MCOs. And there are 2 MCOs left. They're supposedly going to bring another one in next year, I guess. And one of them actually works with people, and the other one doesn't. I mean, I talked to the other one, he kept talking about the providers committing fraud and things like that. I mean, that's not really helpful, and I think people need to be aware of what's going on with these MCOs and the way they're dealt with. And even Mr. Foxhoven said that when they met with MCOs, they were kind of like, you don't have any control over us, that, you signed this contract, and now they're renegotiating the contract, and that's Mr. Randall's job, and hopefully they'll put some teeth in there, and there are actually clauses in they could go after the MCOs on, but they've never done any of it that I know of. And, it really has to be a situation where the state is running the MCOs, not the MCOs running the state. And if Mr. Randall and Mr. Foxhoven can do that, great. If they can't, then they should get out of their jobs.
What this question is for both of you. When are they gonna clear up the backlog of payments by Medicaid? There are people waiting 5 and 6 months for equipment that was ordered long ago. Either one of you or both of you comment on that.
I wish we could tell you when they were gonna clear that up.
Yeah.
But I don't think they even know how much additional money into Medicaid in this year's budget to try to make up for the, well, I want to say it was a good chunk. It had
Yeah.
4 and $1 million in it.
4 and $1 million?
And
75 million, something like that.
Yeah.
That's a guess. I
Yeah.
can't remember. Maybe 74, yeah.
I don't know, I just remember the but, we put in a whole bunch of extra money to try to,
Yeah.
you know, pull them up, get the Medicaid solvent, and it's still not even anywhere near enough. We still have people that aren't being paid, and yes, are being denied access to the equipment that they need, the care that they need. It's ridiculous.
And then the other day, there was an elderly woman waiting 5 months for a walker.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
And it's just unacceptable.
It's unacceptable. And right here at home, one of the problems has been reimbursement to University of Iowa hospitals and clinics. And they were out like 25 million.
Wow.
And for a while, because of that and because of some other situations, you know, they've laid off or maybe just didn't rehire people, but like 500 positions, UIC right here, you know, that's never happened before. And I was kind of amazed, well, I guess I'm not amazed that the press hasn't picked it up because we have such a skeleton force of the press anymore. But that's an enormous situation there and a problem, and I think they're supposedly moving forward. One of the things, if you have to confirm somebody as a department head, they get really useful in and talking to you. So Mr. Foxhoven, one of the things he did do when I asked him about it was they cut some funding for medical education that the University of Iowa used to get. They cut
Through DHS?
Yes.
Hmm.
They used to get it's the dish payments, disproportionate share payments they use for medical education, and I think the University of Iowa is losing like $8 million on that situation this year. That's one of the things they cut. They just went ahead and cut, and so I asked them about that, and then they were reapplying for more funding for those payments. So the DHS went ahead and did that. Apparently they weren't going to do it, but and supposedly they might bring in 21 million, but we have to see it and it has to be approved and everything. But only because he was up for confirmation did someone going back like that happen.
So the money came back into the into Medicaid or into the medical education program that you were talking about? You
Well,
said it brought 21 million.
It's disproportionate share dish money that goes and they use for medical education
Oh,
from
okay.
Medicaid.
Oh, okay.
But they cut it.
Yeah.
So DHS, you know, took the money then.
So I was surprised, now you mentioned, Representative Nielsen, that money was, the Medicaid did get an increase, and I was kind of surprised that I saw that there was an increase in home and community-based services funding. Now, I don't know if that, again, it sounds like we're way far away from meeting that need. I believe there are waiting lists, right, to get on some if not all of the waivers. So it's, it sounds like there's much more work. I mean, the issues certainly haven't been solved.
No, not at all. I think that might have been a little bit of a show
Dave.
to try to help with the community-based mental health bill that we passed a very comprehensive mental health bill this past session that would do a lot of really great things for Iowans if there was any money to fund the program. I think that was a little bit of a gift or here we're going to sprinkle a little bit of money here in this home and community-based area to try to show support for that, but I don't think it's anywhere near enough. It's not enough to cover people being cared for at home with a disability. Is certainly not enough to cover the community-based services needed for our mental health programs.
Yeah, that's.
My guess would be this might have been one of the last hurrahs for Dave Heaton.
Yeah.
Since
He's retiring this year too.
Representative Dave Heaton, the heater, is retiring.
The heater.
and the heater has been a great advocate for.
Yes, he has.
In a tough caucus. I understand that, and I know people on the Democratic side don't think he's done enough. Probably hasn't, but I think he's done what he can. And I think that is really gonna hurt the Republican caucus and not having someone who stands up and you know, promotes funding for health and human services. And Dave has done a good job of doing that, so he's retiring also. And I think maybe that has something to do with it. So there's slight increases in there's cuts all across the board on everything too. So.
Well, we're glad the heater brought a little money in, maybe.
Well, we think, well, hopefully that's where it came from, who knows?
How was the Democratic convention last week?
I didn't go.
Yeah, I didn't go either. We were in our family vacation in DC, so, but as I understand it, the one thing that our nominee, Fred Hubble, had to do was come up with a good lieutenant governor candidate. And he should have done that.
Yeah, I know that lady.
You know,
quite well.
Senator Hart,
Yeah,
she's
sure
a really
do.
solid, good person. And her secret weapon is the guy named Paul, who is her husband. Have you met Paul?
I haven't met him.
He's very great, gracious, low-key farmer type guy. I mean, he'll just sell himself out there. And they've got 5 kids, one son and 5 daughters, and they're highly accomplished daughters and all that. And Rita will be great. We're trying to find somebody to run for that seat up in Clinton in Scott County. So if you have an interest, anybody out there, let me know. So, but because she actually was going to be on the ballot for re-election there. So.
She was a champion when she was at CDD. We used to staff the Prevention of Disabilities Policy Council, and she was on that body as a freshman senator, and just really took a big interest in you know, she was the type of person that when she said she was going to follow through on something, she did. And one of the other things that we were going to ask you about, and it's serendipitous that you would mention Rita Hart, is the Refueling Assistance Act, or bill, that's been out.
She worked on that.
She worked very hard on that. She had at least one constituent in her district that really hit her up from day one, and for all I know, she knew about it before she even became a senator. But that was a thing that she worked on, and you know, we see things that they, you know, there's been a pocket of people that have worked on that for a number of years, and it seems like, and I believe even that there was a lawsuit that against a couple of stations, but that still leaves a lot that need is unmet. And Keith and I were just noting that there seems to be, you know, after you try something long enough and it doesn't go anywhere, you just kind of, you know, people lose interest. So I don't know if either of you have heard if that was an issue at all that was brought to either of your attention this year, and it's still obviously a need. So I don't know what we might need to do to get people revved up. And I think I know what you're maybe going to say, but I'll be quiet. And
Well, the solution to a lot of these things is a fairly obvious one, that, you know, elections have consequences, and if people in Iowa seen the last 2 years of what happened in Des Moines, you know, I mean, I don't know what Iowa, the Republican majorities see, because this is different Iowa than what I see. I mean, they're cutting funds for education, they're cutting funds for health and human services, they're cutting funds all over. DNR, over the last, 10 years, it's been cut 50%. I mean,
wow.
It's crazy. All these things that have been going on, cutting, and then the really extreme bills that they've been passing. I mean, the abortion bill that's now, the courts went to the court and they got to stay on it, so it's not moving forward. But it's the most restrictive abortion bill in the United States that they passed, and they took no amendments or anything. It was just their way or the highway on everything that they did this session, except a few minor bills. But I certainly hope that people understand what happened the last 2 years, and they want an Iowa that's so mean-spirited and not moving forward in education or anything else. They got it the last 2 years, so I hope people understand that in the election. And especially in Iowa House, and Representative Nielsen can speak to this, that they have candidates for 96 seats. out of 100. I mean, that's unbelievable.
Really?
You never get that many. 96.
Haven't had that many in 30 years.
No, we haven't had that many in 30. I don't know if we ever had 100 or more than 96 ever to run for that. And the
For the
Senate,
Democrat, you mean there are Democratic, 96 Democratic candidates? Is that
Yes.
in the House?
yes, and then in the Senate, of the seats that are up, there's only 2 that we don't have candidates. Well, it'd be 3 now. Rita resigns, or doesn't run again. And one was gonna be David Johnson's seat, and he was gonna be running as independent, but then he decided not to. But then the other one, there's still one out there, we're still looking for a candidate. But that's never happened before, and we have this great statewide group of people running for statewide office. We have Attorney General Miller and Treasurer Mike Fitzgerald, both of the longest-serving treasurers and attorney generals in the United States. And they're running for re-election. And then that combined with these young, really good young people, Rob Sand running for state auditor, and someone named Deidre DeJure, who's running for Secretary of State, which is elections, and she would be the first African-American elected in Iowa in a statewide office. And she's
Wow.
a very powerful, well-spoken person who's gonna really run hard on that. And Paul Pate doesn't know what it's gonna hit when that hurt. And then our ticket of, Hubble and Hart, and one of the slogans they came up with was Hubble leads with heart. And I think
Oh,
that's
my.
a great slogan, and we're gonna have the resources, and we have the candidates, and we have Congressman Lopsack running for re-election, then all our good candidates running here in Johnson County. And essentially, the one really contested race that's really going to be contested is Senator Kinney as opposition from a woman who was on the pork producers statewide board in Washington County.
Oh.
And he actually needs help in that race. The rest of them are unopposed, or Senator Bolcom's got a Republican running against him, but that's the most Democratic Senate seat in Iowa.
In Iowa.
So,
And Jody
but,
is running against Representative Kaufman.
yes, and then in my Senate district, Jody Clemens from Greater West Branch is running against Bobby Kaufman, should giving him a good run. And then, as I said, Zach Walls is running for my seat as a Democrat, and there's a Libertarian named Carl who's on the ballot there.
We may see a lot of changes.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about the ticket up and down, and all these new people running and all that. And there's some excitement and enthusiasm on the Democratic side I haven't seen in a long time with all these groups.
That's
And
encouraging.
So 2018, we need to make changes. I mean, we got to start moving the state forward.
Yeah.
All these issues that, that should be addressed, they're not addressing, and the ones that they don't, that are petty, small issues just for a few constituents. I mean, one of the things that the governor vetoed was was a situation, and I'm surprised somebody pointed this out to him, to her, that was a situation where in Polk County and like 3 other counties, they were dealing with a situation of a pretrial release to try and have some programs set up so poor people don't get stuck staying in jail longer because there's no programs for them. And the bail bondsman hired some big lobbyist and came in and put in legislation that say they couldn't continue those programs. And they were highly successful programs that they're trying on a pilot basis to do this. And the governor did fortunately veto that. But this petty, cheap, special interest stuff that was all over everything we did this last 2 years, it's got to stop.
Yeah.
And people need to be aware of who's in Des Moines and what they do.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, as we expected, this always goes way too fast.
Yeah.
We could sit and set another hour easily. Sometime we said that, we threatened to do that last time. We'll get you after you've retired, and then you'll have, I was gonna say limitless time, but I'm sure you'll find plenty of things to do, so.
I've seen the honey-do list that's just
That's
started.
It's already growing,
It's
yeah.
actually a foot long, yeah.
But we would like to thank both you, Senator Dvorsky and Representative Nielsen, for coming, and wish, actually, you could still come, in pre-session if you'd like.
Well,
And maybe you could be a fun way to hand off the baton to the
Pass
new.
the torch.
Yeah, and Representative Nielsen, we're gonna count on you having success and November.
Well, I
And
hope
so hopefully you'll be able to join us for the pre-session in the fall or in December of 2018. So thanks so much for taking your time to join us. And thank you also to our sponsors and those of you out in PATV land and YouTube land
Yeah.
for tuning in.
Yes, thank you both for a clear and concise report. And have a good week out there, individually and mutually. Bye now.